Day, Tim O'Shea, Rob Thompson, and here we are, Tim,
What's
beginning of the
going on?
season.
Yeah, and then we're in for a long season here, Rob. It's going to be a fun one. We have a lot of things on the table. It's going to be exciting.
I think this is the first year that there's a lot of first for the Walter Camp Football Foundation with the All American Awards, the fan votes, right? What we're doing here, the game day, and in our studio, which if you want to, studio yours looks like a real studio. You put some time and effort into.
This didn't look like this when we moved in. I painted the walls. If I turned the camera around, it'd look a lot different. But I decked out this corner here with some of my sports memorabilia. I'm a Dolphins fan, so I got to rep Marino. But yeah,
Pretty
man,
obvious.
but hey, you got to start somewhere.
You do, and I apparently started in the storage closet. You think of all the years I've been doing these things, I would step up, but nah, I think this is just me. So Tim, you and I are going to be the host for Walter Camp Game Day this season, and this thing is going to hopefully open up a whole new world for engagement on the Walter Camp All American side, and just for folks that don't know, Walter Camp All American team. This is the 136th year that this team is being named, which is pretty incredible. And out of that, this is the second year that they're actually doing more than just the Power Four, Power Five. It's also going to be named the All American FCS, which is the old school 1AA, Division Two, Division Three, and NAIA. Since Walter Camp created the sport in 1880, the rules of the sport, the first rule he came up with was the line of scrimmage, and then he just added from there and became the voice of American football for the rest of his life. But it was founded here in New Haven, Connecticut, not too far from where Tim went to school in Southern Connecticut, off Whaley Avenue, right? Which is kind of where him and I spent. There you go Owls. Him and I spent a lot of time. I grew up here. So what Walter Camp did and the impact that he had on American football, and especially college football at that time, was incredibly impactful. There's a reason why, I tell everybody, there's a reason why they built the Yale Bowl, which is 70,000 seats, in 1914, because it mattered. And it was the Northeast was the hub at that time for a lot of sports, basketball, baseball, and American football. And most people don't know where American football started or who started it. So, what was your thoughts? I mean, how educated or gets knowledgeable were you about Walter Camp when I first approached you?
Yeah, so I mean, I want to say that I'm a history buff when it comes to football. I love the history of football. I've been collecting, sports cards all my life, so that's one way to get knowledge. And I was also an only child, so I have a lot
Oh,
of
well,
friends.
okay, there you go. All right, thanks for joining us, everybody.
Pretty much. But to be honest, I heard the name Walter Camp, but I didn't know it originated in Connecticut. I think I had a good understanding of who he was. I knew about how the foundation of football and how he founded the line of scrimmage and all these rules that he implemented and how it changed the game to what it is in modern day. But I didn't know that it had such a Connecticut tie. And being a Connecticut native, that's something that I wish they taught us more about coming up. So I think it's really important to get the word out and just show how important Connecticut is to the college football, professional football, and football in general landscape.
Yeah, the ecosystem of it all started here. And if you think about, the things that have evolved from there, or the innovation in sports that evolved from there, from the Frisbee, right, to the wiffle ball, and ESPN was created here, Starter Sports was created here, NBC Sports is based here, the WWE, and the list goes on. Yes Network. So there's the ecosystem of what's happening here in Connecticut and what has happened here for 100 plus years. It really started with Walter Camp, and that to me, and I think to you as well, and all those that are involved with us, that's the cornerstone and the legacy of Walter Camp that we're keeping alive. For 60 years, they held a dinner here where the All-Americans and those involved in football in general, pro and college, descended upon New Haven for a 4-day celebration of these All-Americans. And that has shifted, and that has shifted a lot, had to do with the time of these Power 4, Power 5 kids and the time constraints that they have, and now the influence of the economics has changed a great deal. Talk about that, Tim. I mean, how do you see that affecting all levels of football, not just Division One?
You know, it's crazy because I just started seeing kids starting to commit to high schools now. And they're coming out of middle school and they're doing all these big commitment ceremonies like they're going to a Power Five school, but they're going to high school. And it's just the professional game, I feel like, is just going to keep kind of dipping down in a way. So now you have NIL, right? And it's basically college football is in a way almost professional football now with when it comes to economics. You're seeing 18-year-olds getting millions of dollars to come to schools, and then they're changing schools to the highest bidder every year. The transfer portal NIL has completely changed the game. It came a little bit after I played. We started to see a little bit a glimpse when I was still in college, but it's nothing like what it is right now and what it will be in the future. But I just think it's just going to keep trickling down to the youth sports level, high school level. I mean, I'm seeing high school kids with agents now. So it's completely changed the economics of the game. Everything is a business. I'm watching the Little League World Series right now. And, you know, just the money that they're talking about in youth sports is just insane. And that's just going to be where this eventually leads to.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see it. It's coming to light now. It's almost to the point where you have to carve out just football in general at the Power 4, Power 5 level and carve it out and almost just pay a royalty back at the school. But, you know, getting back to what we're doing and how it all circles back around, the players stopped coming to New Haven essentially because of that point of it, of wanting to get paid. And essentially the honor of being part of the oldest All-American team in the country started to lose its sizzle in a sense. And that's something that I think the legacy and those who've been involved in the sport itself, you can't get away from. You can't get away from this is the guy that founded it. This is the guy that discovered it. And it's not just college football. It affected everything from youth football, high school football. It's part of the fabric of who we are and how they did it way back when. And, you know, some of the rules that they had were incredible. But anyways, you know, it is a billion-dollar industry, multi-billion-dollar industry from youth all the way up. It's never going to end. The ecosystem within the colleges and the effects that it has on, I say this all the time, the overall educational experience. Look at the shift that was, I mean, I use this example and nothing against Notre Dame, but could you imagine Notre Dame without football? Could you imagine Texas without University of Texas or Alabama or LSU without football, right? It is the engine that has driven higher education. There's no denying that. Now, how do they use that now to keep that leverage going? You see what's happening now even in the Northeast, in the Midwest. You know, the students are now, you know, if they're not going into Ivy Leagues, right, they're going down to the SEC. Right, they're going down to those schools, and those schools are starting to flip the switch over to be kind of the leaders in higher education, and it's changing rapidly because the kids want the experience. Anyways, so with that, let's talk about a couple of things that a couple of the features that we're going to do. Talk about the fan vote. Talk about the fan vote and how much the fan vote means to the overall, I guess, engagement. The fans, families, media, right? Everybody gets a shot at making a vote.
Well, that's the thing, man. We're trying to get engagement. We're trying to get people to, you know, look at Walter Camp, look at what we're doing, and we want them to have their input. They're the people that are going to be watching the games on Saturdays, right? They're the people that are going to be, you know, betting on the games, doing whatever. So they all can also have an input in the, you know, in an award like the Walter Camp with such prestige behind it. So that's, you know, our way of engagement and to get the fans, you know, perspective on things.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool thing. So we're going to be pushing this out. We're going to have campus captains this year, so representatives from the colleges that are going to push it out just to make sure that their campus knows, hey, we got 2 or 3 players that are going to be nominated for the All-American team this year, regardless of level, and we want them to have a good shot at it. We want their fans and family and teammates to be able to vote.
Yeah, and that's so important too because, you know, there's so many, I want to say, like, different awards, especially in college football. They got Heisman all the way down to Blintikov and this and that. So how can the Walter Camp stand out? We got to bring it to the campuses, to the players, so they can promote it themselves as well.
Yeah, so it's going to be it's going to be a pretty cool year. You could be able to follow along. You could vote
Yeah.
and share their votes and all that other good stuff. So more to come on that. But this is our studio. Well, Tim's studio, my storage closet. This is what we're going to be doing for most of the season. But we're also going to be live up at Mohegan Sun in Connecticut Casino, and we're going to be in the sports book. In their sportsbook area. We'll give you the final dates when they come up, but we want you to look out for that. We'll be going live. We'll have Walter Camp alums there with us, hopefully some coaches, and be doing one-on-one, what we call 2-minute drills and all that other good stuff. So, Tim, talk about that a little bit at Mohegan Sun.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a fun time. I mean, anytime you can go film at a casino, it's going to be a good time. And Mohegan Sun's got one hell of a sports book over there. It's going to be a great scene. And you want to be around people that are football fans, are sports fans, and that's what you're going to get at the sports book there at Mohegan Sun. When it comes to the actual interviews and the actual show, we're going to get a lot of insight from former alumni, people who know the Walter Camp organization inside and out, that are brand ambassadors for it, that are in the administration for it, and they're going to be able to talk and share their perspective on, one, the history of Walter Camp, two, the award, and present day college football, what they're looking at. We're going to talk about some games. We're going to keep it trendy, and it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, it is. And the one thing that I wanted to segue into before, but it goes along with the awards, because Walter Camp was an innovator, right? He was a junior at Yale University when he came up with the rules to kind of take this hybrid soccer/rugby hybrid crazy game of 15 on 15, just a street fight, into what it's become now, just a little bit more of a controlled chaos street fight, which is the modern day American football. But what has happened, and to Tim's point, when he was still in college playing a couple of years ago, this whole transition from their career. So Tim's career into kind of figuring out this discovery of having a voice in college football, and you could have it now more than ever. It's the same what goes when the current players are there. With NIL, to me, it's about the permission for them to discover that career pathway. So whether it's content creation, or whether it's flipping sneakers, or doing one-on-one coaching, or whether it's coming up with your own hoodie design, the opportunity is there now, and that's disguised what people say is NIL players get paid. Only about 1% or 2% of players really get paid, right? So the rest of them, because the majority of players that play college football in Division II and Division III, there's just more colleges, more schools that play at that level. But now they're giving the opportunity, the pathway to discover that. Because Walter Camp was an athlete innovator, when he came up with these ideas, he became a content creator. He was a writer for 30 years, right? He came up with the All-American team, which was published in magazines and New York Times. In honor of him, we're creating the Walter Camp Athlete Innovator Award. So those are for any student athlete, regardless of sport or level, to be nominated by their school, who have done something that's impacting the way we watch, play, and consume sports, or making an impact in their community, right? So whether they're starting a nonprofit organization or doing something that's going to impact their community, or a tech company, so they've created this app that matches up parents and youth players with college players, do one-on-one coaching, or they've created this cool hoodie, or whatever it may be. We want to know who they are, and that's a whole different award that we're going to give out. We're having nominations this fall. We're going to talk a lot about it. We're going to do one-on-ones and do 2-minute drills with these athlete innovators and athlete entrepreneurs. And there's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of them out there that are going the career pathway. So Tim, talk about your transition from being a student athlete to now being a content creator and kind of building your own brand and giving yourself your own digital voice, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think you hit it on the head. It's just such a great environment now for student athletes, because it's almost promoted in a way for students to go out and make their own brands, monetize themselves. I was still like I said, I wasn't in that era yet. It was transitioning, but it wasn't fully there, especially at the D2, D3 levels. But for my story, it started in college. I started this brand, my Tim O'Shea brand, Tim O'Shea Live, in my dorm room, or in my apartment, in my basement. You always have your guys that you watch football on Sundays, and you're just shooting the shit on the couch, right? And your boy's like, I can do a podcast. I can do this. I can do that. But no one ever does it. So I just said, you know what? I'm going to do it. So I started, and I look back on my stuff now, and it wasn't good. It wasn't well produced. But you just keep building from it. And I've been at it now for about a year and a half, like truly been at it. But in college, what I did was I picked up every opportunity I could, I worked for the athletic department, I produced the live streams, I broadcasted, I was doing play-by-play, I did camera stuff. I hosted our like SB awards, in front of like 700 people, which was a great time. I didn't think I could do that, but I did it just because I threw myself in the mix. So now, transitioning into my professional career, I want to be a content creator. I want to be a producer. So this is the path I want to take, but it all starts by putting those breadcrumbs down when you're in college, when you have a lot of time on your hands. Yeah, you have class and stuff, but other than that, don't go home and just play video games and stuff. Look at the opportunity that's in front of you, because once you get a real job, you don't have a lot of time. You're working 9 to 5, so you got to do everything off hours. But that opportunity in college to start what's built up to what it is now and what I foresee it in the future. And now I'm starting to meet a bunch of other content creators who've stuck with it through the Walter Camp organization as well, and the Gridiron 1888. And now we're starting to collab and talk, and now it's just building and building and building into bigger things. So that's kind of my personal story. But if my advice to someone that's in college right now, everyone has a story. Everyone's story is important, but just take those opportunities and get your story out there if this is something that you want to do.
Yeah, without NIL or without that permission, I don't know if this would have happened for you, Tim. I don't know if you would have discovered this. Now you have a clear pathway. Then you wouldn't have had this 5-6 years ago.
No, and I started at I was at the University of Connecticut for 1 year, and I played, and I was a walk-on, and I was like the 6th string tight end. I was just a scout team guy. I wasn't going to see the field for probably a year or two, maybe a couple of years, maybe never. But I never thought that my story was important. My mom would always be like, start making videos. Start making videos at UConn in the locker room, talking to the guys about your journey. She'd always say that. And I was like, my journey's not important. I'm a walk-on. I'm not important. And I think for me too, is as in the locker room, you don't want to take the attention away from the guys that are on the field, right? Out there every day. So you don't want to seem more important than they are. So there was like a little like power struggle there too, in a way. But looking back on it, that might be my biggest regret, is not just taking the camera out and using that opportunity to even just like talk to guys that are now in the NFL who were freshmen at the time that I roomed with, that I was across the hall with. We could have started something 5 years ago that would be huge now. And I'm looking on TikTok now or Instagram, and what do I see? Walk-ons, guys who are in walk-ons in JUCO. They're in JUCO. They're not even D1, but they're telling their stories. Everyone's story is important. So that's why any person who wants to get into this industry, that's what I tell them. Your story is important. Don't think that you're not, and get your voice out there. So that's like one of my biggest regrets, was not, doing that.
Moms know, Tim.
Moms know, man.
Always know. Just listen to mom. She'll follow you in the right direction. And you can leave not just breadcrumbs, but pizza crust. We
exactly.
Pizza crust in Connecticut.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, you're right. Just you got to tell your story. You got to start somewhere. You might not have a huge audience to begin with, but everybody's pretty much interested in something that's different and unique, because only 5% of high school athletes go on to play college, regardless of level. And that's a very, very small number. So it doesn't matter the level that you play as long as you play, right? And it's not about scholarships. It's about roster spots. And most parents don't know that, So anyway, so Tim, we got a lot to discuss this year. It's going to be a fun ride. This is 145th official year of college football. I know ESPN celebrated 150 years a couple of years ago, but I don't know where maybe they just needed something to celebrate. But it's 145 years this year of college football. College football is what started it. So, led to Pop Warner and all those great high school football rivalries and traditions, and obviously nothing's better than college football and then the NFL. Walter Camp was the founding father of it, right in the middle of it. We're representing the foundation this year, telling the stories, sharing the stories of these athletes at all levels, celebration of American football worldwide. And it all started here in New Haven with Walter Camp. And Tim and I are going to hopefully take you along on that journey, our own journey, whether we're in our storage unit basement studio or Tim's elaborate LA, New York City set there. You know?
Yeah, I wish.
So we'll see you hopefully soon up at Mohegan Sunview. For those of you who are joining us, we do have a Instagram, and we're on all social channels under Gridiron 1880, and as well as YouTube. So all this content will be shared on there as well, and here on LinkedIn Live today. So thank you everybody for joining us today. That's Tim. I'm Rob. This is Gridiron 1880 Media Network. We'll see you again.
Appreciate it.
Oh, that was it.